Hello, my name is Rhonda Gilbraith. For the past several years, the library and the English department have joined forces to celebrate poetry in April, which is National Poetry Month. Thank you so much for joining us in this virtual gathering where we extend that tradition. You're going to hear several members of the Bethel community read some delightful poems. But before we get started, I'd just like to share with you a few thoughts about just how and why it is that poetry is so meaningful to us. And the first of these comes from a conversation between two poets named Ellen Bass and Marie Howe. They're discussing the question just why it is that so often we return to poetry in these big important moments in our lives, times like weddings or funerals or graduations or inaugurations, moments of big transition. And Ellen Bass says, one of the things that I think poetry does is to help us see our personal experience as part of the human experience. When you read certain poems, you think, oh, here's a person who has lived through this and knows what I am experiencing. You can know this intellectually, of course, but emotionally, it can hit you as though you've never known it before. Sometimes there's a poem that someone wrote long ago, someone who's dead now, someone who never lived where I lived, and their poem gives me comfort and sustenance. Marie Howe adds, I keep thinking of the Robert Frost line that goes, a poem is a momentary stay against confusion. Not only has someone stood where we've stood, but they've somehow created a structure that can hold order and disorder in equipoise. Roger Housden, who's written a book called 10 Poems to Change Your Life, says, poetry at its best calls forth our deep being. And he goes on to quote poet William Carlos Williams in his poem of Asphodel, that greeny flower. It is difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there. Now let's sit back and take a few minutes to let these poems call to us.
My name is Brooke Thacker, and I'm reading a poem called St. Thomas the Apostle by Malcolm Guite. We do not know. How can we know the way? Courageous master of the awkward question, you spoke the words that others dared not say, and cut through their evasion and abstraction. O doubting Thomas, father of my faith, you put your finger on the nub of things. We cannot love some disembodied wraith, but flesh and blood must be our King of Kings. Your teaching is to touch, embrace, anoint, feel after him and find him in the flesh, because he loved your awkward counterpoint. The word has heard and granted your wish. Oh, place my hands with yours. Help me divine the wounded God whose wounds are healing mine.
This is George Herbert's poem, The Flower. It's built on a metaphor of the human life as a flower that flourishes, that passes away and dies. In the beginning of the poem, Herbert names God as the Lord of power, and it moves to naming God as the Lord of love. And I think the movement is in Herbert's ability to finally accept that we live for a season, that we flourish for a season, then we pass away and we're gone. And it's accepting that beauty and the passing of that beauty that leads to the resolution and the beauty of the poem and the acceptance of life. I couldn't resist glossing a few words, as you'll see. In this first stanza, the word demean, I believe it just means demeanor, the demeanor of a flower, which is beautiful, the appearance of a flower, made even more beautiful as we remember the recent frosts, as we do in northern climates, that have finally gone away. These are pictures mostly from England term trips, pictures of flowers taken by my wife Judy and of our students. The Flower by George Herbert. How fresh, O Lord, how sweet and clean are thy returns, even as the flowers in spring. to which, besides their own demean, the late past frosts tributes of pleasure bring. Grief melts away like snow in May, as if there were no such cold thing. Who would have thought my shriveled heart could have recovered greenness? It was gone quite underground. As flowers depart to see their mother root when they have blown, where they together all the hard weather, dead to the world, keep house unknown. These are thy wonders, Lord of power, killing and quickening, bringing down to hell and up to heaven in an hour. Making a chiming of a passing bell. We say amiss this or that is. Thy word is all, if we could spell. Oh, that I once past changing were, fast in thy paradise, where no flower can wither. Many a spring I shoot up fair, offering at heaven, growing and groaning thither. Nor doth my flower want a spring shower, my sins and I joining together. But while I grow in a straight line, still upwards bent, as if heaven were mine own, thy anger comes, and I decline. What frost to that, what pole is not the zone, where all things burn when thou dost turn, and the least frown of thine is shown. And now in age I bud again. After so many deaths, I live and write. I once more smell the dew and rain and relish versing. O my only light, it cannot be that I am he on whom thy tempests fell all night. These are thy wonders, Lord of love, to make us see we are but flowers that glide, which, when we once can find and prove, thou hast a garden for us, where to bide. Who would be more, swelling through store, forfeit their paradise by their pride.
The next readers are finalists in the Jerry Healy Poetry Prize, an award established by his family to honor the memory of beloved Bethel English professor, basketball coach, storyteller, comedian, and poetry lover, Jerry Healy. The theme for this year's contest is patience. These poems will be published in a special section of the Coeval, which is Bethel's literary magazine, and 3 winners will be awarded in May.
My name is Emma Harville, and this is my poem, Moribund. I woke up this morning, expired fruit, soft where I should not be soft, spilling out with pungent fumes and spit out in saliva-splattered bits. I sit in a wire basket grave to rot. The mirror feeds me, fattens me, tells me everything will be fine if I choose the right dirt path. There are several. So I will try, over and over again, to change, sprout up, cleanse the sludge and smut from my boots and don the white dress, dancing to the tick of the grandfather clock as I clean my mush and mess.
Longing for a new moon. Let us lament for one more patient gone. No time to grieve this relentless monsoon. Patience waxing and waning for the dawn. When palpable is my heart's wasting brawn, errands accosted by a maskless goon, let us lament for one more patient gone. No surprise my apparition withdrawn, for life feels like nothing but a cartoon. patience waxing and waning for the dawn. It takes seemingly nothing to bring on hallucinations of coughing maroon. Let us lament for one more patient gone. Daydreaming every memory foregone, as I resurface from nightmares immune, patience waxing and waning for the dawn. And with another caffeinated yawn, I've become apprentice to the moon. Let us lament for one more patient gone. Patience waxing and waning for the dawn.
I'm Elijah Zupfer, and this is my poem, Wait. And so we wait, with great wait. We've been waiting for so long. We've been waiting for so long, and bodies falling from the weight of knees on necks and racial hate. Thousands fall within the wake of sickness as it escalates. And so we wait, with great wait.
In 7 years, every part of me, each cell in my body, will be replaced, new, untouched. In 7 years, his rough lips will have never met mine, his paint-splattered hands never held mine, his sticky, sweaty body never pressed against mine. In 7 years, my skin will have never been touched by him, my hair never brushed by him, my 14, 15, 16-year-old body never abused by him. 7 years. I've escaped his grip, but he still has hold. But in 3 years, 6 months, 21 days, 8 hours, I will be released. I wait patiently, knowing soon I'll be new, untouched, free.
My name is Grace Holmes, and this is my poem, Dawn. I never thought of Dawn as something breaking. Rather, she's something that sneaks, slowly raising her hand above the horizon, cautiously guiding the light of the coming day. The first light she brings is hazy, dull and blue, dishearteningly blue. In the dusty, wearied morning, shady light won't comfort troubled stargazers. They are enduring an eternity of sleepless nights. Their comfort only comes by morning's golden light. However, her salvation doesn't charge into battle like a knight in blazing armor. Her light doesn't come in roaring flames set to burn away the darkness. But take heart, dear stargazer, because in the dusty, wearied morning, hope comes from knowing her golden light is coming.
My name is Madeline Aafedt, and I'm going to be reading my poem, Spring. Do not wither with the passing of time, or let the hours take hold of your hope. Do not let the winds of winter, the death of the world around you, discourage you from the whispers on the horizon. Take care to nourish the seeds you've planted in your life. Watch them burst, bud, grow into possibility that is not rushed, but touched with a tender hand, encouraged with a gentle voice. Spring lingers in the distance, taking time to breathe life into the seeds you've planted, and one day you open your eyes and the sun whispers, patience, and the earth is warmed.
Tipperillos. Bobby Kramer and I lit up tipperillos out back of his father's machine shop amongst the stacked planks of raw steel and the long pallets of rebar with the odor of rust and the reek of oil from the whirring lathes, the smoke from melting metal, and the scream of the grinder along with the snap of the arc welder covering the mephitic plumes of cigar smoke and the hacking cough. Parade. It's garbage day in our neighborhood. And up and down the street, you hear the rattle of the big plastic containers being pulled to the street by the high-heeled lawyer, or the old man in his robe and slippers, the plumber in his overalls, the sullen adolescent on his way to school, or the woman puffing on her morning cigarette. And no one knows why, but on this day, people all over the neighborhood are steering the big plastic drums into their lanes, forming up 2 by 2, 3 by 3, coming out of the side streets into the larger arteries, smiling and waving as spouses and children now line the streets. A spectacle that needs no marching band, no baton-twirling young girls from Miss Candy's School of Dance. Grab bars. Grab for all the gusto you can was what we heard in the early 70s at a time when grabbing for the gusto was possible and necessary while we were young and starting out in careers and getting our first paychecks and a new car, and we were pretty sure we knew how it would all go and gave no thought to how it would all end. And now that we are passing into the final leg of the journey, with its conundrums and farcicalities, all those dizzying shifts of body and soul and spirit, I thought it prudent to mount grab bars in our bathtub, one slanted along the back wall, one to grab as we stepped over the edge. Cleaning out my office after 30 years. I started by trashing the clutter of papers on my desk and floor and shelves that had outlived their currency, papers you put down not knowing at the moment what to do with them, ignored memos, old class lists and stacks of extra handouts, a pile of advisee folders, names without faces mostly, and the books I once thought important I put on a table outside my office, offered to students and colleagues who would put them on their shelves. And the contents of my filing cabinets, notes, student evaluations, contracts dating to '88, and materials mostly obsolete and had been for years, and were definitely obsolete now, I transferred in great handfuls to the recycle bins in the hall. And I pulled out the agglomeration from my desk drawers and laid it all out, a history in pens and pencils, old grade books, keys to unknown doors, 1,000 pulled staples, a handful of rotted rubber bands, cords from archaic computers, 3 iterations of business cards bearing outdated college logos, and former ranks of assistant and associate professor. 4 5.5-inch floppies with names like Files and More Files. And in an act of liberation, I scraped all of this into a black plastic trash can, the odd book I wanted to keep along with my bust of Bach, and a vase I boxed and loaded into my van. And after a few days of this, my old office was empty. I turned out the lights, stepped into the hall, turned to notice my name had already been removed from the door.
This is Rhonda Gilbraith. I'm going to read 2 poems. The first is called Dirge Without Music by Edna St. Vincent Millay. I am not resigned to the shutting away of loving hearts in the hard ground. So it is, and so it will be, for so it has been time out of mind. Into the darkness they go, the wise and the lovely, crowned with lilies and with laurel they go, but I am not resigned. Lovers and thinkers, into the earth with you, be one with the dull, the indiscriminate dust, a fragment of what you felt, of what you knew, a formula, a phrase remains, but the best is lost. The answers quick and keen, the honest look, the laughter, the love, they are gone. They are gone to feed the roses. Elegant and curled is the blossom. Fragrant is the blossom. I know, but I do not approve. More precious was the light in your eyes than all the roses in the world. Down, down, down into the darkness of the grave, gently they go, the beautiful, the tender, the kind. Quietly they go, the intelligent, the witty, the brave. I know, but I do not approve, and I am not resigned. My second poem is called What the Heart Cannot Forget by Joyce Sutphin. Everything remembers something. The rock, its fiery bed, cooling and fissuring into cracked pieces, the rub of watery fingers along its edge. The cloud remembers being elephant, camel, giraffe, remembers being a veil over the face of the sun, gathering itself together for the fall. The turtle remembers the sea, sliding over and under its belly, remembers legs like wings escaping down the sand under the beaks of savage birds. The tree remembers the story of each ring, the years of drought, the floods, the way things came walking slowly toward it long ago. And the skin remembers its scars, and the bone aches where it was broken. The feet remember the dance, and the arms remember lifting up the child. The heart remembers everything it loved and gave away, everything it lost and found again, and everyone it loved, the heart cannot forget.
Thank you for joining us for our virtual celebration of poetry, and thanks to those who generously read and shared their work with us. We hope to return to a live event this time next year. Until then, keep on loving, learning, and living poetry.